Nice, nice.
There we go. All right, so we're going to do the last chunk of business. I kind of went a little bit out of order. So we did a business planning day. We did a building your business. Now we get to talk about the maintaining business part. And essentially, we sort of look at it from the liability and risk management perspective, which is boring, but it's actually really important. If you do a good job of managing risk, your business functions in a fairly normal, predictable way, and you don't have to deal with reactively putting out fires and managing, big problems. And that's what we want. We want the business to be not boring and predictable, but like we don't want to be dealing with big problems. So it is important to look a little bit at that, and then we'll talk about the client retention aspect, because as you gain more experience, as you sort of solidify your client base and the people that know you, then a lot more of your business is retention based than anything else. So we'll look at that stuff today, and then a little bit of exam prep stuff. And if any last questions or anything like that that we can deal with live, that's great. Of course, I remain available to you to contact in various ways to support you ongoing, but we'll sort of call this like the last formal one. So I didn't give any homework last time. The business of PT part is sort of just preparing you a little bit for what comes next. And as we sort of get involved, some of you are transitioning from service roles into training. Some of you are literally changing careers. Some of you are retired and, picking up a side project to stay occupied. So whatever, everybody's journey into the role is a little bit different. But we'll sort of give you sort of the best practices and stuff for this section. So here we go. So for the business of training in the sense of maintaining, we'll talk about the liability issues first, just kind of get it out of the way before we are talking for too long. So one thing that I want to make super, super clear, you have to have liability insurance. And the example I give is like, well, what if I'm just working out of my garage and I'm only training friends? Liability insurance is not about protecting yourself from strangers. It's about protecting the people you care about from unfortunate circumstances, right? So even if you're like, well, my clients know me or they're friends or family or whatever, it's not really about that. It's that if something were to happen and they were to get injured badly enough that they could not take care of themselves, their dependents, their lives, whatever, they might be in a position where they have no other option but to pursue this, right? So it's like, I don't ever want to hurt anybody, but I'm going to make sure that they are protected in the eventuality of something that sort of is beyond my ability to predict. And you want to separate your own personal assets from being able to take care of those people in horrible circumstances. So if you go to work for a bigger organization, they will cover you. That's part of the benefit of being an employee, is that the liability insurance stuff is taken care of. Your job in that case would be to maintain your personal training certification and maintain your CPR. So for example, the PTA Global Cert, you have to recertify every 2 years. And up until COVID, you had to recertify your CPR every year. I do think they extended that a little bit over the last 6 months for people, because even live CPR courses weren't being offered. So then people weren't able to recertify. But the general rule of thumb in the industry has been, because we do work in a higher risk, higher exertion environment, that we want to make sure that we're polished on those skills. So your job, if you're an employee, is to make sure that you don't let those certifications expire, because if you did, then the policy that covers you via the organization will not cover you if you have expired, right? So it's like, you've got to make sure that you're eligible for that coverage, but otherwise the business takes care of it. If you are a contractor, if you work on your own, if you run your own space, then you would need to obtain liability insurance. There's different levels of coverage. There's different requirements for different types of businesses. I am not affiliated or do not benefit in any way by saying the next thing, but in my own personal experience, having done my own business in a couple of different ways, having searched out, the best options, I personally prefer to go through a broker, because that person's job is helping me get the best policy for my needs at the best cost. So that I guess is just sort of like a personal recommendation. If you decide to do your own thing, going to an insurance broker and telling them this is what I do and this is, you know, what I need, they'll be able to connect you with the thing that makes the most sense. So that's kind of what their job is. Okay. That being said, what having liability insurance will do is protect you and look after people that need it. And it's all around understanding negligence. So negligence is failure to do an act which a reasonably careful person would do, or it's doing an act in which a reasonably careful person would not do the same under similar circumstances. So if we were to make that easier to understand, in this case, being a reasonably careful person means being a certified personal trainer. So if I have somebody that's coming in and they want to lose weight, a reasonably careful personal trainer would have them do a warm-up and some kind of cardio resistance training type workout. We would do it on machines that are well maintained. We would do it using exercises that are evidence-based and scientifically sound, right? We would pair that with good nutrition that adequately fuels the client and makes sure that they can maintain their health. If someone wants to lose weight and they come to me and I say, okay, we're gonna do cardio by dodging traffic on the highway outside of the building and don't eat anything for the next 14 days, that would not be what a reasonably careful personal trainer would do, right? So what we have to think about in this case is that we're acting based on our scope of ability and the knowledge that we should have, okay? So when it comes to negligence, it's largely going to be based around establishing compensation for personal injuries, and there has to be some kind of proof of fault on the part of the defendant. So let's say someone gets hurt while they're working with you, you are the defendant, and what has to happen in the process of determining negligence is that it has to be determined that you are at fault. So there could be lots of ways where people get injured where it's not your fault. You did your very best. They made a mistake or they didn't listen. So it's going to come down to figuring out fault. And what it comes down to then is the person at fault is responsible for paying the compensation to the injured person. So if you are not at fault, you are not responsible for paying compensation. So ultimately, just sort of the risk. Insurance is all about kind of hedging your bets. You want to navigate your career so that you don't ever have to use your liability insurance, but having it protects you against essentially financial risk, right? But sort of more importantly, the way I look at it is if someone did get hurt, then something is in place that allows them to find a way to navigate their future, okay? So they usually ask a question along these lines on the exam. The elements of negligence are discovered in a tort, which is a civil wrong. So murder is a criminal wrong. A tort is where we look at a civil wrong. So negligence is a civil wrong. You're not breaking the law, but you're not meeting the standard that you should based on your profession. So when we look at a tort, there's 4 elements. We've got duty of care, breach of duty, causation, and damages. So useful to make sure that we know the definition of those terms. Duty of care is the responsibility to take reasonable care for the safety of others by avoiding acts or omissions that may foreseeably injure another person. And duty of care arises in certain relationships. So for example, doctor-patient or personal trainer-client. So, you know, if I'm going to teach somebody how to squat, I actually want to do the movement, tell them how, have them do it, and recommend some coaching while they're doing it. I also have to know whether it's reasonable that the person would be able to do a squat versus not, right? So for example, that's why we do the overhead squat assessment, because if they do a body weight movement and it looks really horrifically awful, we're not then going to reasonably assume that if we put a barbell on their back, it must get better. We would sort of know based on our training that if their body weight squat doesn't look good, then we're not going to apply load. We're going to find other ways of helping them move successfully, right? So we are a profession that has a duty of care. And therefore a breach of duty is when your services fall below that expected duty of care or falling below an expected standard. So again, what a good, safe workout looks like is kind of a standard. There's a ton of freedom within that framework, but there's certain expectations. And I would say even really simply, it's like every workout should have a warm up and a cool down, right? So even those would be elements of making sure that we're taking care of our client or our group training members successfully. So when it comes to that court case, the standard that your conduct must live up to is determined by an objective, reasonable man test, which is in the particular situation, what is the knowledge, quality, or skill that you have or should have to navigate that, right? So again, if you're a certified personal trainer, let's say you get 71 out of 100, you are being expected to act as if you got 100 out of 100. So if something happened to your client and then you were like, well, if you look at my exam, I got that question wrong, so I can't be expected to know that information. You're a certified trainer, you're expected to know 100% of the content in the sense of standard of care. So the court will ask, what knowledge do you have or should you have as a personal trainer? And did you act in accordance with that knowledge? So once we sort all of that out, causation then is a direct connection between breach of duty and injuries incurred. And there has to be some kind of proximate cause. So if I'm teaching a client how to do deadlifts and everything goes really well, and then we move on to, push-ups and rows and ab exercises, and then they're fine and high five, see you later, great job. And then they go home. And then the next morning they wake up and their back really hurts. There isn't really a direct connection. Whereas if we are showing them how to do deadlifts, they do 3 reps, and then on the 4th rep, they get this look of pain on their face. They drop the barbell and they instantly clap their hand on their low back. Okay, well, that is a direct cause, right? So there's often a timeline consideration. If time passes between our service and their injury, it can be more difficult for there to be a causation link. So that's typically what we're looking at in that respect. But examples of what a causation result might look like: if we fail to lead or instruct a movement or exercise properly, if we fail to warn the client of risks and dangers, or if we fail to adequately supervise the client, those would be things that could link to causation. So there's a case, again, I think they ask it on the exam sometimes. There was a case in Australia, Brown versus, forget the name of the gym now. It's in your PTA Global video for sure. But there was an older man who came in to do a session with a couple of trainers, and he advised them of pre-existing issues. They put him through, they sort of pulled a program for him and put him through it, or gave it to him and said, here you go, here's a program for you to follow. He did his best to follow it. He hurt his shoulder fairly significantly. And then he took them to court and said that they didn't properly assess or understand his pre-existing scenario. And the program that they gave him was inappropriate. I guess he had it evaluated by maybe a doctor or a physio or something. And it was like, well, yeah, if you told them this and they gave you that, that's contraindicated. They shouldn't have given you that, so they're at fault. So even though he wasn't working with a trainer, didn't hire a trainer, just was given a program, the program wasn't appropriate for his condition and made his condition worse. And he had all kinds of pain and suffering and blah, 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 whatever. So it was, I don't know, $60,000 settlement or something like that. So that's a big reason for the intake, right? That's why we do the PARQ. It's why we ask a bunch of questions. It's why we take them through a movement assessment. It's why we show them how to do exercise. And from a program design perspective, I don't actually know where this falls on the perspective of liability insurance, because a lot of times we have people sign paperwork that says, I understand exercise has an inherent risk and I won't blame you. But it's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of program design, because if I write dead bug, bow and arrow, side plank, cable row, RDL, chest press machine, whatever, and I give you the program, we've all learned in the context of our practical exercises together that there's a really big difference between here's what it is in words and here's what it feels like when you're doing it right. So again, not that it's really a liability thing, but if I write you a program, I might look at the piece of paper and go, wow, this is a beautiful program. Here you go. It's everything you need. And then they're doing a dead bug with this huge arch in their back, and they're doing squats too low and their spine's curling under, and they're doing rows and their shoulders are up to here. Like, I don't know, whose responsibility is that? They're doing it to the best of their ability. I know what these movements are supposed to look like. Where, I'm not a fan of program design for that reason. I'm also kind of curious where that falls kind of from a liability perspective. If I download an online program that you make available and I do it and I get hurt doing it, do you have any responsibility whatsoever? I don't know. I don't think so, because there's so much volition in the client sort of choosing what to do, right? If I download John Russon's foundation program and I decide to try a 400-pound back squat, it's not like he told me to do it. He said 4x6 at 65%. So my failure to understand, my failure to have knowledge, my failure to act properly, I really can't blame him. But also, like, he's the trainer. He knows. I don't know anything. Where's the responsibility, right? I think that's why we just do a way better job of helping people when we help them in person, right? So it's something to think about. I don't think there's a liability risk in this case, but it's like, I don't know. I want to have as much control as possible over the scenario so that I am certain that what's happening is beneficial for you and matches your goals, et cetera, right? Okay, so then if causation is determined, then we look at damages, which is that injuries, loss, or harm suffered by the plaintiff in the case, usually physical, ranging anywhere from minor injury to death, usually results in some kind of financial compensation. And you'll see lawyers ask for things like pain and suffering, loss of income, loss of the ability to support a defendant, or a defendant having to pay money to try to get better because of what happened. So usually in civil cases, the result is financial in nature, okay? So it would be really awesome if we never had to worry about any of that. We obviously want to do our best to keep people safe when we train them. But if something bad were to happen, we would at least want to have some protection so that, my bank account, my house, my assets, my whatever, are not at risk. I hope I tried to do my best. And in the case of something unexpected happening, I don't want my whole entire life to go down the drain as well, right? So insurance, various levels. I ended up getting some coverage over COVID because the gyms that I was working in before closed, and I wasn't entirely sure if the doors are closed, even though I'm still employed by them, am I covered if I do stuff at the park or not? I thought it was just more of a risk than I was willing to take. And COVID already made things pretty uncertain. So I ended up getting a pretty comprehensive liability policy, and it was $200 for the year. So that allowed me to do in-person, online, at the park, in a gym, right? It allowed me to do a lot of things, and it was $200. So we're not talking about thousands of dollars to get covered, especially if you're just covering yourself as an individual. So, I do think it's sort of like the mark of a professional is kind of handling those types of details. So I would encourage you to look into it if you're doing something on your own, okay? Blah, blah, blah. A couple more things to look at. And now we're sort of looking at it from the perspective of being an employee. So vicarious liability would be that the owner of a gym is held liable for the actions of their employee. So if you're an employee and you're on the job, but you screw something up, oops. Again, it's the owner's policy that is called into question. So again, that's why we want to maintain our certification so that we're covered. Similarly, if you are working for someone and they give you instructions and you follow those instructions and those instructions end up causing somebody harm, the person giving you the instructions is the one held accountable versus you. So obviously policies that gyms, facilities, organizations get cost a lot more. They cover a lot more things, but you're protected by them because they're the owner of the policy, okay? So while we want to have insurance, one of the things that we can also do to protect the business is use exclusionary clauses. So if you sign up for a membership, there's usually a bunch of fine print that says exercise has an inherent risk. Please be careful. You're responsible for your own movement, conduct, et cetera, et cetera. If you were to hurt yourself, the gym cannot be held responsible. So exclusionary causes sort of shift the responsibility to the individual participating in the actions. That will not save you from gross negligence, but it at least allows you to say, they met with a trainer, they signed off on the PAR-Q, they went through a complimentary session, they were working out on their own, they did something unsafe and unsupervised, they were injured by it. That's their choice. We didn't tell them to do it, right? So that clause does allow us to kind of separate. So although beneficial, they shouldn't be relied upon solely. We still want to have trainers. We still want to have people walking the floor, overseeing things. We still want to step in and say something if we see somebody doing something that's really unsafe. We want to have first aid kits on hand. We want to have our first aid certification. Whether you have a 24-hour gym that has cameras in it or whether you have staff in the building, we still want to make sure that people are okay. But that exclusionary clause can be helpful because it's going to potentially save you from someone saying, well, it's your fault, right? So your job as an employee then is, if you have someone signing up for a membership, signing up for training, you just need to make sure that the paperwork gets filled out. That's it. So the exclusionary clauses are in place, but you're the person facilitating the agreement. You just want to make sure that you know the terms, can explain them, and then actually have people sign. Okay. Often your pay is linked to getting paperwork finished properly, because that's one of the only ways that the organization can sort of enforce that you help protect them, is linking it to pay. So it's usually very much in your best interests, both from being a good human and protecting everybody, but also from getting paid properly. It's usually in your best interest to just make sure that that's getting taken care of. So then when it comes down to risk, because we're trainers, we're the ones on the gym floor, we're the ones making recommendations. The factors that we need to assess, and one of the reasons why we want to do a complimentary session, would be client health contraindications identified during the screening process. So if somebody says yes to something on the PAR-Q, we need to ask a little bit more. So if I say, in the past month, have you had chest pain when not doing physical activity? And someone says, yes, I did. I had chest pain yesterday. We would want to know more. Now, if someone punched them in the chest because it was like a, high five gone wrong, fine, that's not the thing. But if they're like, yeah, I had this really intense chest pain while I was walking up the stairs to my office yesterday, that's a contraindication to them engaging in exercise today. We would rather they go see their doctor, right? So that's sort of part of why we're asking those questions. If there's sort of an undiagnosed issue, we might ask them to go see their doctor and get a signed release from the doctor. Yes, this person is allowed to exercise. So every gym is a little bit different, but in the case of the PAR-Q, if someone says yes to something, there's actually a secondary set of questions we might ask, which could help us clear them. And or, we can print out a piece of paper and say, please take this to your doctor, and get them to sign off. So then the doctor is kind of the one deciding whether or not it's appropriate to engage in exercise, okay? The other things that we have control over is the inspection of the training area prior to sessions. So that sort of this general idea of, it's not my mess, but it is my gym. I want the equipment to be put away where it belongs. I don't want a bunch of stuff lying around on the floor. It's kind of funny because in my own experience, I trip over things that I've set up in a circuit way more often than my client ever trips over anything. And part of that reason is because I set up a station, they're doing an exercise safely the way I've told them to do it. And I'm looking at them and I'm moving around them while I'm watching them. And because I'm watching them and I'm moving, I'm the one that steps on a kettlebell, or I'm the one that trips over a hurdle. So I sort of laugh because I'm like, I feel like I'm the one that needs to be protected from equipment lying on the ground. But especially if we're working out in an area where maybe there's lots of other people, or, like I love doing functional stuff. Sometimes it's hard to store things like sandbells and kettlebells and battle ropes and sleds, like they kind of just get left in rows on the side of the turf or, you know, things like that. So it kind of becomes important to just make sure that stuff's clean. We give a certain impression to gym members based on how we keep our space organized, but there's definitely some safety opportunities in making sure that we take care of those kinds of things. So I both want to show my client that I take care of the gym and it matters to me, but also the added element of safety. I want to make sure that they can just work hard without having to worry about watching where they're putting their feet or anything like that. Okay. Similarly, as trainers, we're teaching people how to use things like kettlebells, Bulgarian bags, rip trainers, Indian clubs, steel maces, right? And these are things that move. Rip trainer is a metal stick with a loop on the end that has a pretty strong elastic connected to it. And so if I'm doing a press and I sort of slip and let go, it's shooting back in the opposite direction based on its elasticity. And if someone is in the way of that path of motion, that's pretty painful. Similarly, steel mace is like a pretty long thing with a big heavy ball on the end. And so I might be standing here doing my steel mace thing, but the mace itself is traveling much farther beyond the edge of my body. And if someone sort of out of their peripheral vision sees me and stays clear of me, they might nonetheless be in the path of the mace, which, God, would be an ugly kind of explosion. Like swinging a 10-pound metal ball on the end of a stick around my body at a pretty decent velocity would like crush their skull. It doesn't matter that it's 10 pounds. It's like a weapon. So as trainers, again, if we're using things that are ballistic or have momentum or are unconventional, like if someone's doing a chest press machine, I'm not really all that nervous about walking pretty close beside the machine because the machine only moves in one direction. But if someone's trying to learn how to swing a 27-pound Bulgarian bag and their grip gets tired, it could fly for feet before it lands safely on the ground. So then again, as trainers, where we're doing all the cool unconventional stuff, we just have to be that much more careful that the path is clear and we're sort of keeping an eye on the people in the surrounding area, or we're moving to a place where there aren't people in the surrounding area, things like that, right? One of the things I always say about commercial gyms is we love having more volume. It allows us to do our job and be seen and have exposure across more people, but then the potential risk is also bigger. There's more people, right? So even the hypervolt vibrating gun thing, we teach a course about how to use it. We only get to use it if we minimize potential risk. So that's part of why you have to come to the course first. There's always stuff, especially in the US, because of how litigious it is, but there's always stuff where someone was doing their best, but kind of didn't pay attention, did it wrong, and then it got blown massively out of proportion. And what I always say is we only get to use this stuff if there are no problems associated with it. So if I'm a trainer and I'm using a hypervolt and I accidentally break someone's kneecap, Fitness World now gets hauled through the stew pot for breaking someone's kneecap using a vibrator. Nobody gets to use a vibrating gun anymore, period, right? So we have to protect our ability to do things like unconventional training and percussive services and blah, 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 by just making sure that we do it responsibly and keeping everybody safe, right? So bad press affects us all. Good press, unfortunately, doesn't spread as much as we would like it to, right? So we just have to be careful to minimize bad press as much as possible. It's why we wear masks, and it's why we clean things, and it's why we try to, keep people safe distances apart and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's more risk in the industry thanks to COVID than ever before. We have to be that much more vigilant that we're doing our best to keep the optics on point, okay? So once we've done the screen, once we've figured out what people can do or not, again, part of our job is analytical, right? I need to assess your ability to do something. So if you want to do barbell back squats, I have to be able to assess whether or not that's viable today. And if it's not, how do I help you? I don't want to, insult you or demoralize you, but how do I help you while keeping you safe? There's a balancing act in the sense of communicating, right? So using appropriate and evidence-based exercises and equipment to help someone move towards their ultimate goal, but doing it in a safe way. is why we need brains. It's why we need eyes. It's why there's a communication process when it comes to coaching. Okay. There we go. Okay. So now, once we've taken care of sort of those lawyerish type details, when we actually talk about maintaining your business, let's say you spend 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year building up to your perfect schedule where you have as many clients as you want. It's somewhat dependable. You've got maybe 60, 70% of people that actually stay with you for a good chunk of time. What we look at is this concept of client retention. Okay. So client retention means that I'm working with 10 people consistently, and then I have sort of 5 that kind of come in and out. They work with me, they go on their own, they come back, they go on their own, and then one of my 10 refers me to someone, and that person works with me for 6 months, and then, right? So there's a little bit of solidity. The obstacles to client retention are, number one, just the amount of information that's available, right? The number of books, websites, YouTube videos, apps, Instagram, influencers, right? There's a lot of information out there. So it is possible to go and find all of the things we know and all of the information we share. It is possible to go find that information somewhere for free if you really want to, right? I don't think I have a single original thought or a single movement that isn't being replicated and repeated hundreds of times somewhere for free. Okay. So that's the reality of the age of information, right? Similarly, I am one of thousands of personal trainers in Vancouver alone, never mind the competition of online programs and all the other stuff, right? So that's part of the challenge. One of the biggest reasons that people will continue with a trainer, though, is trust and familiarity. So there's a couple of things that I think about in relation to that. I worked in Ontario for about 7 years. I still get messages from former clients who just kind of say like, "Sigh, it's just not the same without you." It's been years since I had a conversation with them, let alone created a program for them. Okay. So it's not the science that they miss. They romanticize the relationship, the connection, that period of their life, right? Like I was in Ontario a couple of weeks ago, and actually a couple of my friends are former clients, and we sort of got to reminiscing a little bit. I kind of just laughed halfway through the conversation, and I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, we had a lot of fun together, and I miss you guys too. But you're also just missing being in your 30s. You're in your 40s now. Things are different, right? So human beings in general tend to have this fondness for the past. They make things better in their memory than they might have been in the present time, right? So part of the trust and familiarity thing is just what happens inside of our brains. But if we leverage that, we can use that shared history to continue a relationship, right? If I help someone lose 50 pounds and now we're working on strength gain, well, I have this whole history with you where, remember when you were 50 pounds heavier and you were depressed and you hated how you looked and you thought you couldn't do it, but look at you now. I have that history with you. Nobody else does. So if you were to leave me and go work with someone on strength gain, that person doesn't have that shared history with you. And that's a powerful thing for human beings, especially in a world where between social media and COVID, we're very disconnected. The connection that we share with people is a very, very valuable tool for retention. And I'm not trying to sound manipulative. I really believe in the value that I offer my clients. So I think it's a fair exchange, right? But building relationships is a big part of what this business is all about, because it's what any business is about. I want to do business with people I enjoy doing business with, and that's a relationship oriented thing. Okay. I've been to some really smart, awesome massage therapists who were just like zero personality. And then I've been to like some average, decently good massage therapists who were like a ton of fun to talk to while they were deep tissuing my vastus lateralis, right? Who do you think I go back to? I'm getting a massage either way. I get to have a cool conversation with this person versus that person, right? So like we can't underestimate the benefit of that when it comes to retention. Okay. So how do we go about doing that? Because what I'm saying is it's not all science-based, it's not all evidence-based, it's not all results oriented. If it's trust and relationship based, how do I go about creating trust and relationships? Because a lot of times I don't really have that much in common with my clients. I'm fit. Listen, I'm going to say some slightly politically incorrect things right now. Don't hold it against me, okay? I'm fit, they're fat, I'm young, they're old. I'm an athlete, they never were. I have my shit together, they're a complete mess, okay? So like we wouldn't hang out on the weekend. We don't have that much in common. How do I go about building a relationship with this person? Dustin, I'm glad you like that. Okay. I think back to when I was in my 20s, most of my clients were in their 40s and 50s. I'm a queer single person with no interest in children. They're married with children and careers, and they're very heteronormative. And like, how do I connect on that level, right? But if we can do these 6 steps, then we can make that happen, right? So again, I'm not a manipulative person. I genuinely care about my clients, and I encourage you to be authentic in the work that you do. But I'm saying there's a way to bridge the gap so that you can do great work and build meaningful relationships with people that you would otherwise never say more than 2 words to, okay? So step number 1 is emotional engagement. More so than even what PTA Global says about this, when you sit down and talk to someone and you ask them questions and you listen to the answers, you are creating emotional engagement. Most people are selfish and self-centered, at least to a certain extent. And so it's like going on a first date. If you do nothing but talk about yourself, you probably don't get a second date. But if you ask questions and you listen, then you probably get a second date, right? So we think about that a little bit with client game. I create an emotional attachment by being genuinely interested in you. So that's a really big one. That's how we create our whole interview process, right? Once they hire us, because that initial emotional engagement helps bridge the gap, then as we're working with them over time, does the program progression strategy energize and appeal to your clients or not? So this is where we look at traditional versus progressive. This is where if we really make the client's interests the forefront of program design versus my own personal interests, I want to energize and appeal to them. So the way I think about it is, if they have a workout with me today, are they looking forward to it as the best part of their day? Or are they dreading it because I'm evil and I'm going to make them work hard and I'm making them do things they hate, right? One of those 2 people is going to stick around. The other one is going to very quickly find something else to replace the time they spend with me, okay? So the whole reason why we start looking at things like traditional versus progressive and introducing the 3DC is because we're trying to find things they enjoy. Working out is hard work after all, but if we can give it to them in a way that they enjoy, then they're definitely more likely to stick around. And so, you know, does it stir them emotionally? Does it make sense logically? Can they see the progression they're making over time? And we want to be aware of body language and tone. If they get really flat when they're usually energized, or if they get really angry when they're usually calm and complacent, those would sort of be markers that we're not really hitting what they need. And the idea is that the more we involve all 5 senses, the more emotionally involved they become, because those are the ways, those 5 senses are the ways that we perceive the environment and make choices, right? Make decisions. So let's have a quick talk about that one, because I think it's like common sense, but also maybe catches people by surprise a little bit. So from a visual perspective, based on what I see, what might be some things that I could do to match someone's expectations around the visual sense? Or if you can't think of that, what might be some things that would completely turn them off based on what they see?
Oh man,
Not making eye contact.
Okay.
Kind of looking around and not really.
Yeah, I actually think that could go either way. We could make too much and we could be intense and intimidating, or we could make not enough and we could seem really aloof and unconcerned. Sure. So eye contact would definitely count under that list. Dustin, something, yeah.
It's like body language. I would like, I mean, in terms of the forms of communication, like most of your communication is body language and tonality, like we learned. And so I guess like you were asking like what visual aspect might turn them off would be not being engaged, like facing them kind of straight on, I would say would be like you're a little standoffish.
Yep.
Is that just always making sure to be with them
Yep.
right in front of them.
So
So
like if they're doing a ground-based exercise like that, like say, let's say they're doing a plank and you're just like standing over them, like they don't want to be looking at your shoes. They don't want to have this perception of like you bearing down on them. So I think that would count as well. Regan says general appearance, clothes, hair, etc. Yeah, 100%. Like we get to work in an industry where we wear running shoes to work every day and we wear pants we can squat in and we get to wear things that fit us well. And there's a physicality to the work we do, right? But if we look like a total slob, or if our shirt is super too small or super too big, or if there's yellow stains under the, you know, like all of that kind of stuff, it's overall a lack of professionalism, right? So I think we have to be a little bit mindful. Now, it's kind of funny because let's say that we have certain styles that trend across certain demographics, and we could be totally on point and on trend, but someone very far out of that demographic might go like, that doesn't look good to me. So there's a little bit of nuance to that. But I think that's definitely something is, can my appearance lend a professional air to what I'm doing? Similarly, is my gym clean and organized, right? If it is dirty and messy, then my overall perception of the people who work there is that they don't care. So those are kind of some of the things that check the boxes on visual, right? What about, let's do a little bit of a harder one. What about taste? As a trainer, how do we think about taste when it comes to the five senses for our clients?
I'd say that have to do with their eating habits, perhaps talking about the foods that they want to eat. Like I'm doing this meal prep stuff right now, and so I'm really thinking about how I can feed other people. And one of the most powerful things I heard was from Greg Douchet, or I think that's how you say his last name on YouTube, and he says like the best diet that you can eat is the one that you want to eat. And so you just have to find the diet that that person wants, and then I guess like just help them get to that point where they're able to do that, where they're eating the foods that they want, and it's just like maybe the right amount of foods, and like maybe eliminating some of the bad ones, or yeah, just helping them plan in general and giving them like a good taste in their mouth when you leave. Like if you ever have that conversation, you sometimes leave with nice saliva too, but that'll also help you remember. I'm sure your bodies are pretty cool, so you can like, you know,
yeah,
taste the difference. I don't know.
I think taste largely comes down to sort of how we recommend nutrition and meal plan stuff. So the example that sticks in my mind the most is we got a chance to do a lot of internal education with Vega when Vega first got really big. And I loved everything about the education platform. I loved that there were no artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. I loved that it was like sourced from natural organic ingredients. I loved that it like hit the entire amino acid profile. Like on paper, it looks great. And then I tried to drink it and it was disgusting, right? So on paper it looked awesome and I could run a pitch that sounded amazing, but I put it in my mouth and I'm like, I feel like I'm drinking hairy grass in chocolate milk. And I would just much prefer to have chocolate milk without the hairy grass in it, right? So if I'm like, you have to be plant-based and you have to get more protein and this is the best one and shut up. And they're like, they drink it and they're like, this is disgusting. Then maybe I don't get the opportunity to keep helping them, right? Plant-based protein is an option. And yes, your palate does change over time and you can certainly learn to love it. My fiance uses a vegan protein and she likes it a lot. But if I ever grab her shake out of the fridge instead of mine, and if she ever drinks mine instead of hers, she's like, damn it, I forgot how much better yours was. And now I have to start all over again, training my mouth to drink mine. Like it's a thing, right? So there's like a nutritional component to taste. I've had lots of clients say to me like, okay, I need to lose weight. I need help on nutrition. But if you tell me I can't ever drink wine again, I'm not going to hire you. Right. So like we all have our own kind of little non-negotiables when it comes to nutrition. And I think sort of being able to accommodate that is a big part of what taste is all about, right? Okay, cool. So that's kind of an example of sort of starting to use the five senses. We had a very long debate around protein in the day class because Callum was pretty sure that he'd found, vegan God's gift to bodybuilders in the way of this apple, cinnamon, vegan, whatever. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll try it. Like I realize I just shit all over vegan protein, but I'll try it. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And so he gave me a little sample and I tried it and I'm like, okay, the taste test as an example is you're going to potentially win me over if you let me make up my own mind instead of just trying to strong arm me into buying a $70 tub of something that I think I might not like. So those are kind of some of the things we can do from a service perspective that mean we're empathizing with the person, we're letting them make their own decision, right? We're helping them evolve over time. I really like broccoli. Lots of people don't. How might I get them to the point where broccoli is something that becomes available? Well, let's start by mixing it into food instead of just eating it raw like a chicken leg, you know what I mean? So that's kind of an example. I feel like I'm hungry and I will now keep talking about food unless I move on. So let's move on. All right, so that was step one, emotional engagement. Step two, uncompromising experiences. Let's speed up and just make this really simple. Go beyond what is required, okay? Doing what is expected of you is not extraordinary. You have to be willing and able to over deliver. So one of my favorite things is under promise and over deliver. If we give more than is expected, people are pleasantly surprised. That automatically builds retention, right? So can I be creative? Can I offer something special related to their goals? Can I create a memory? Or can I make it a training experience instead of just a training session, right? So that might come down to, when you reach 100 pounds of weight loss, we're going to go out and buy matching shoes. Or it might be like, I'm so proud of you. You trained hard all winter. What do you think about entering a Tough Mudder this summer? We'll go and do it together. Or it might be, hey, it's your last session before Christmas. I'm going to give you a Christmas gift and I'm going to do the workout with you. So however hard you work, you're going to make me suffer that same amount of work. Like we just have to think about ways to elevate and separate ourselves from sort of the sort of bare minimum expectation that everybody else around us is delivering, right? I would say that's a kind of a big part of business, right? Why do you work out at the Fitness World in Nanaimo instead of the Harbor Center Fitness Club? Well, the Nanaimo gym is new and bright and has a glute drive machine and hydro massage and tanning, and the staff are really friendly. And if you go to Harbor Center, it's got the same carpet on the floor since 1970, and the owner's a grumpy old man, and there's this hairy dog that kind of walks around, and it's like super quiet and dark and kind of depressing. So if we, like, Harbor Center delivers my bare minimum expectations, it's got gym equipment in it, and then I went to Fitness World and I'm like, oh my God, this is so much better. I want to go here, right? So as a trainer, how do I do that same sort of thing, right? It's not just programs, reps, sets, and protein. How do I deliver more than that? Trick up my sleeve. One of the things that I pull out sometimes if I see someone getting a little flat, I give them some homework. I say, go home and I need you to find a theme song for this next phase of our program. Send it to me before you come in for your next session. And then even if it's just on my own phone, when they roll up to the desk, I wait, play. And then we just kind of groove out for a minute on their new theme song. And then I'm like, okay, let's get to work. Like simple little things, right? It doesn't have to be extravagant. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be extraordinary. Okay. All right. That creates emotional engagement. That creates retention. Step 3 is details. So this could be anything, but details matter. Our service has to be tangible. We have to create an experience that is memorable. And so if you're not a very detail-oriented person, this might be a little bit of a challenge for you. You might have to plan it out on purpose. If you are a detail-oriented person, you probably can't help but do this. And so that's to your benefit. But it is a learned skill. I'm trying to teach my fiance this. I'm really good at surprises and gifts, but I've also had a lot of practice at it. But it's a learned skill. I was not innately born awesome at gifts and surprises. I probably did a lot of trial and error stuff, and I've sort of found some things that work for me. So it's like, if it matters to you to be a personal trainer and it matters to you to help people, then you will make the details matter, right? So it's sort of like what are you willing to accept responsibility for? If the answer to that is everything, then you'll be great and you'll set yourself apart from people who go, no, here's my boundaries. I only take responsibility for this thing. That's not my mess, right? So those types of things make a difference. I'm very detail oriented to the point where I will even turn the logos on the dumbbells the right way up, and I will make sure that all the numbers are in a straight line all the way across the rack. I have lots of clients who do not notice. However, I have a couple who walk in and they just go, see, this is why I train with you, because you get it, right? So there will be people who don't notice the details, but there will always be people who do. And if you want those people in your business, then it matters to be able to take charge of them. Regan, I totally get that about you. Also, I can tell just because of your shoes. She gets it. Okay, cool. Step 3, details matter. Step 4, become your client's raving fan. Okay, so all of this kind of links in, but like, if I genuinely care about you, if I like your post on Facebook, if I put a comment, if I share your post to my story and I'm like, look at this awesome person, I'm so proud. If I do client spotlights, if I take, let's say my client just hit like a new squat PR, and at the end of the workout, when we come back into the little trainer pit, I kind of brag about my client to some of the other trainers there, like in front of them, then they feel really proud. Or, hey, Jake, can I introduce you to Toko? I'm so excited. She just did a new PR on her clean. Like, we think of it as like being a really proud parent, but like, you're a really proud trainer to your client, right? So paying attention to their lives, celebrating things that matter to them, kind of making a big deal about them when it's warranted, right? Like, they've got to earn it. It's got to be for something that makes sense, but like, not being afraid to pump their tires a little bit. I think everybody needs more of that in their lives. And I think if someone has a trainer, their trainer should be that person for them. Okay. So make them feel appreciated, make them feel special, make them feel like they matter. And that'll go a long way to having them stay with you as well. Okay. Step 5 is partnership. So I think this one comes about after we've been working with someone for a little bit. I don't necessarily think we partner with somebody that's brand new. We're still in a stage where we're really trying to set some structure for them and sort of help them learn what we need them to do in order to be successful. But over time, it's less expensive to be occasionally thoughtful than it is to constantly have to prospect for new clients. So whether it's sending them an article about something they asked about, or, tagging them in a post about something, or maybe it's just, recognizing them on their birthday, right? Those little things, if you make them feel respected as a human being, not just a client, then they hold higher esteem. And realistically, partnership is where we start to see referrals and testimonials happen. So if you say to them, hey, it's been super awesome working with you. I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished. It'd be super awesome if you were willing to like shoot a little video for me so I could post it on my page. I really love my job. I'd really love to be able to help more people the way I've helped you. Would you be willing to help me by doing that? That's partnership, right? So then if they write you a testimonial, or if they do a little video for you, or if you, something like that, that's what partnership is. And it can be really lovely and authentic and nice. And people will listen to what my clients say about me much more so than they will listen to me talk about myself. Right. So if I can establish a little bit of a layer of people that speak well of me, then I get to be humble and, oh, shucks, thanks so much. But like, meanwhile, people are hearing really great things about me, right? So there's a partnership mentality to that. The last step then is self-reinvention. And I think this one's really important. I will tell you that this has been the key to my success. I have not for a single day in a 22-year career been bored or burnt out or flat. I have been really lucky to just have a sort of thirst and a curiosity to learn new things, but also to work with really cool people and seek out new experiences. And so I think that if I show up every day excited to show my clients something new, or excited because of something I'm working on, I think they sort of benefit from my excitement by osmosis, right? So give you an example this morning. I've been working with a group of 8 ladies for a long time, and they were working together as a group of 8 ladies long before they started working with me. I took them over from another trainer. So they are very familiar with each other to the point where everyone knows Sue is the fittest, and everyone knows Fiona's the funny one, and everyone knows Jana is always 5 minutes late, right? So like they're archetypes to each other almost. So I find that we can get into a rut pretty easily because they've been at this for years and years and years. I had to get my workout in early today, and I was feeling pretty good. Took some pre-workout. I work out with a friend who's like super motivating. It's awesome. We get super broy, which is funny because neither of us are remotely like that, but you put us around each other when we're working out, and we go like all the way to the far end of the spectrum. So we had a great workout. I tried a new weight on the program I'm on, nailed it, walked into my group, and kind of said something about like, I've been working on this new program and this was the goal and got the goal today. And so I said, I don't know if that's good for you. I don't know if I'm going to be tired and take it easy on you, or I don't know if I'm going to be fired up and I'm going to make you work hard. And they kind of chuckled, but just, I think my enthusiasm just kind of bled over into how they were feeling a little bit. And then they were sort of like, okay, give us a chance to try it too. And in the absence of me going in early in the morning and having that experience, I don't have that story to offer. And therefore they don't take up that little challenge and try to take it on their own. Right. So I think what I notice about the arc of a training career is that you get into it because you love something about fitness, right? You love muscle gain, you love bodybuilding, you love Olympic lifting, you love dancing, you love whatever. You get into something because of something you're familiar with, something you're good at, and you want to share it with other people, right? And then you do that for a while. You share this thing you're passionate about with other people for a while. And then you're like, man, this kind of feels like a hamster wheel. Like I do the same thing every day. I say the same things to every person and right? If you don't ever stretch yourself outside of your own comfort zone, if you don't ever try something new, if you don't ever run the risk of maybe sucking at something and humiliating yourself a little bit, then you don't ever learn anything new. You don't ever find something that you're like, yeah, I want to work on getting better at that. You don't then gain that sense of like, man, what a journey. I've arrived and I've now mastered this technique, and how amazing was that? Right? You don't sort of get that little rush of nervous excitement when you're taking something on that you're not sure you can accomplish. And therefore you don't have that energy to pass on to your clients, right? So I played soccer for a long time. And then because I was madly in love with a girl, I got into yoga. And then because I was madly in love with a different girl, I started doing circus stuff and aerial things and tandem acrobatic bullshit, which was interesting. It ultimately didn't last. It didn't become a big part of the work that I do. But during that time when I was stressed out and trying really hard to be good at something for the sake of impressing somebody, a couple of my clients got into it and they stuck with it and they're still doing it. Right. So I don't think they would have found that without finding it through me. They've found something really awesome that they do forever. I've now moved and I'm doing other things, but like we have to sort of see that part of our job is breaking the ice for people. Quite literally, I even did a polar bear thing on New Year's Day one year, and it was super, super cold, and I'll never do it again. But I got 6 or 7 people to do it with me at the same time, and some of them still do it, right? So we have to be willing to like be first, and we have to be willing to put ourselves out there. And if we do, we'll find some things we like, and we'll find some things we don't. But the act of putting ourselves out there and learning something new is what gives us energy, and it's what drives us forward, right? So taking courses, working out with someone who does a completely different style of workout than you do, signing up for something and figuring out how to do it. I signed up for a Ride to Conquer Cancer thing before I even had a road bike. And I was like, well, shit, I signed up for this thing. I guess I have to go find a bike now, right? So like this idea of like, I'm only going to do something when I'm ready and I'm prepared, forget it. That's not what happens. We got to be willing to leap and figure it out. And that's actually really what the job of being a trainer is all about. I don't know that I'm going to be super awesome at coaching people, but I'm going to put this shirt on and I'm going to head out onto the gym floor and I'm going to try. And I'm probably going to embarrass myself a couple of times, but I'm probably going to find someone and I'm going to make a difference in their life and it'll be worth it, right? So I think we got to consider that a little bit. how do you feel after a workout? Toko, how do you feel after a workout?
Oh, it's good.
Right. So if you have to do something hard, or if you have to do something scary, would you rather do it before your workout for that day or after your workout that day?
Sorry, I didn't understand. What?
So let's say, okay, so you're going to go write your exam soon, right? Let's say you're a little bit nervous about it. You could go first thing in the morning and write your exam and kind of be nervous and kind of be stressed out and hope for the best. Or you could be like, no, you know what? I'm going to take my exam in the afternoon. I'm going to get a great workout in the morning. I'm going to get those endorphins. I'm going to get all pumped up, and then I'm going to go write my exam. Right? That's kind of what I mean a little bit. So if we have to do something scary and we get a workout in first, it's weird, but that scary thing doesn't seem quite so unmanageable anymore. But that element of newness, that element of energy, that element of sort of, whoa, that was such a great workout. That's what moves us forward, right? So I'm going to steal from Tony Robbins. I went to The Power of Success in Vancouver, I don't know, last year, 2 years ago, whatever. And one of the things he said that I really liked is when it comes to helping people change is hard, right? When people hire us, they're asking for help changing. There's strategy, there's story, and there's state. Strategy is what people think they're asking us for when they come and train with us. They want a nutrition plan to follow. They want to know how many sets and reps and weights and what types of exercises they should do, right? They want a strategy. That's what a program is. Then there's story, and story is what they believe about themselves. So let's say someone wants to lose 20 pounds. The story of why they are 20 pounds heavier than they want to be is a real thing for them. Well, I had kids and then I was busy working and right? A lot of people let their story determine the outcome of their lives. Well, here's why I can't do that, because here's the story about why that's impossible, right? And then we have state, and that's just the state of energy we're in. There's another author, I'm going to forget who it is, but he talks about courage being this measurable vibration of energy, and everything under courage sucks energy out of us and is a negative, and everything above courage is a positive energy, and it helps us accomplish something. So courage is like the lowest common denominator for change, not skill, not talent, not motivation, not right? Courage. If I'm just brave enough to try something, that's the lowest common denominator of something could be different. Okay. So while people think they're asking us for a strategy, sometimes part of what we're doing is sort of helping them turn around and look at their own story and go, that doesn't have to be the way it is anymore. And the way that we're going to change the story is to change our state. So exercise is a way to change our state. So if I was depressed and scared and then I worked out, now I feel proud, a little bit tired, but ultimately good. And then from there, I can do something different. I have the courage to now change my story, right? So it's kind of a cool little thing to think about. If you're bored, burnt out, flat, unsuccessful, failing, it's not a strategy that's going to save you. It's changing your state. So then self-reinvention, self-reflection and self-reinvention is essentially an invitation to change your state. If you're excited to go to work every day, it's weird, but people tend to like working with you. And if you show up at work every day depressed and bitchy, it's weird, but not a lot of clients want to work with you, right? There you go. If I had to boil it down to why I am where I am in my career today, I would say it's because of that. I am always willing to be uncomfortable, risk embarrassing myself, and learn something new so that I have something to share with the people that I work with. So far, it's paid off. Okay, cool. So all of those things, none of them are science related. There's certainly an element of service to them, right? But they're very much on sort of that relational and psychology side of things. And that's kind of what we're trying to say about what a sustainable fitness career is. So hopefully, you know, hang on to those notes. I would even sort of circle back on them when you feel like you need them. It's a good reminder of how to move forward. Okay, So assuming we're able to build some emotional engagement, connect with people, get them into a new state of energy, get them to the point where now they're excited to move on and tackle some changes. There's some best practices that I think lead to client retention. That's why I threw this page in, because after having been a manager for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I sort of noticed that there was a handful of trainers that always did a really good job of gaining clients and completing packages. And then there were a handful of trainers that just seemed to be a disorganized mess. And they were always operating at a much lower percentage of potential than they could have. So these were kind of the two things that really stood out for me. Number one, when you have somebody agree to train with you and they buy sessions, for the love of God, set up their schedule right away. Okay. They should not leave the consultation with a receipt and a promise. Neither of those things are tangible. And if anything, if they go look at the receipt later and that's the only thing they took away from working with you, it's really easy for them to convince themselves that that receipt is a really big number and they shouldn't have done it. Okay. So one of the things we can do to make that commitment more tangible is, great, I'm super excited to do the 12 sessions with you. You and I are going to be training on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. I really want you to try to come to the gym at least once over the weekend and do some cardio. Here's the heart rate zone that you should be in. And we're going to do our first session together on Tuesday. I'm so excited. So they walk away with a receipt and a schedule. That's tangible, right? So book out all sessions at the time of purchase. We recommend 3 sessions a week. We can still do a good job with 2. I'm not a huge fan of 1, but if 1 is where we're starting from, then I will use that 1 session a week to prove to you and earn the right for more business, right? So if I can give you a really good experience once a week, knowing that you're not really going to lose a bunch of weight, you're not really going to get motor learning, you're not really going to massively overhaul your life, right? Knowing that if I can still give you a really good experience, I kind of just keep saying, like, imagine what we could do if we did more. Imagine what would happen if we were able to change a little bit more. Imagine what we're able to happen if we got a little bit more of a shift happening, right? So I will still take whatever I can and use it as an opportunity to do more and more and more until we're finally doing what we need to do to reach our goal, okay? The other benefit of doing this, booking out all the sessions when they first purchase, is you're always going to know the date the package completes, so you can prepare for their renewal or give them what they need to be on their own for a while before you check in again. Okay. So the 3 reasons people end up being dissatisfied with personal training is, number 1, they don't get results. Number 2, there was no support outside of the session. And number 3, when the package completed, there was no additional support. There was nothing to follow. It's like, oh, you're done paying me? Okay, fuck off. I don't take care of you anymore. So if we can avoid making those 3 mistakes, we end up seeing people have much higher satisfaction in training. And if they have a higher satisfaction in training, then they are much more likely to come back to us if they feel like they need personal training in the future. One of the things that I kind of pride myself on is very few of my clients have ever moved on to another trainer after me happily. Sometimes I force them to because I move away and I try to introduce them to someone that I think is going to do a great job of taking care of them. And that's important to do if we have to, right? But what I think is pretty cool is if I'm living in the area where I trained you and you decide that that was awesome and you're done training and you're now going to be on your own, I don't find that a lot of my clients end up picking someone else. They either don't train with someone anymore or they come back to me, right? So that's kind of evidence of the fact that, like, I did a great job. I earned the right for future business, okay? So past clients are a great source of future business if we do a good job of servicing them, right? All right, so then what does it mean to know the date, the end date that a package completes? If I know that their package finishes November 15th, I don't wait for November 15th to be like, okay, so what do you want to do next? Maybe on November 5th, I'm going to say, you've been killing it. I'm super proud of you. We've got a little over a week to go. this is what finishing the phase that we had agreed upon looks like, but I want to talk about what's next because I have some great ideas for the next phase of your program, but I want to check in with you and see what you're thinking. And if they're like, oh, really? Another phase? Oh, cool. Okay. What would that look like? Well, then I can say, okay, well, we would do this and this and this. And then they'd be like, that's great. Yeah, let's keep going. I lost 10 pounds. I thought I was done, but like, you want to teach me kettlebells, rock and roll. Or, hey, it's been super awesome, but like realistically, like just based on like my budget, my schedule, whatever, Christmas coming, I wasn't planning on like doing more sessions at this point. And so then I would say, okay, awesome. It's really important to me to at least maintain the results that we've achieved together. So I want to make sure that you know what to do on your own afterwards. What do you need from me? Well, could I have some copies of my workouts that I've been doing with you? I feel like I'm pretty confident with them. I'd like to keep doing them. Yeah, 100%. I'll give you copies or whatever they need, right? Sometimes it's, hey, do you want to join my group? I run it twice a week. That would allow us to continue working together, but it's a different price. Like there's any number of things that I could offer, but we shouldn't get to the end of the package and then go like, wow. Like we got to talk about it. We got to have a plan. There's got to be some measure of continuance, whether we keep training or whether you now know what you're doing on your own. We just want to make sure that we take care of people properly. So I don't want to be caught off guard by, oh shit, this was our last one. I got to know it's coming. If I book out all my sessions, I know when the last one is. It allows me to prepare more effectively. Okay. So that was best practice number one. Book them all out. Best practice number two is how we track the work that we do. So I'm old. I've been doing this for a long time. We did paper, pen, file folders for like a really long time. I still think it's a great way to go. It's tangible. You can touch it. You can see it, whatever. But we are starting to find more technologically savvy options, like Trainerize itself is an app-based client management system, right? So I don't particularly care whether you go paper or technology, but you have to do something. And it has to be organized, and you have to be able to reference and find the information that you need, and you have to be able to use the information you have to plan what comes next. So if you spend some time getting comfortable with Trainerize and you're good at using it, that's great. And if you're like, oh my God, Trainerize stresses me out, I feel like I'm super discombobulated, it's so much easier for me to write stuff down on paper, then do that, right? But you have to be able to manage and keep organized around what you're doing. The more clients you have, the more important this gets. If you're training like 2 people, you can remember what weights they did last time. If you're training 15 people, you can't even remember the weights that the person did at 8 o'clock this morning, right? So you should have your goal session card, like the answers to the questions that you asked them, the results of the squat and the step test, right? That's quantifiable data that you can show them how they're improving over time. You want to track their body composition. So at the bottom of InBody, it actually does it. If you create a profile for them inside the computer, it actually does it. I like using their phone number because everybody has their own phone number, right? Or I might create a sheet and keep track of it myself. Maybe I'm going to have them take progress pictures so that we can sort of swipe through and go, oh my God, look how much better you've gotten, whatever. But you want to sort of keep track of where they started from and where we are right now. And so therefore, how can we predict how much further it's going to take until we get to where we want to go, right? We also should keep notes electronically or otherwise about their nutrition plan. And specifically when we're coaching something, if I'm trying to coach Toko on getting 100 grams of protein a day, I basically want to check in on that every time I see her. Yvette might need 150 grams of protein a day, and I would want to check in on that every time I see her. So I have to remember that for Yvette, it's 150, and for Toko, it's 100. I also have to remember that Yvette is preferential to plant-based protein. So I can't just be like, when's the last time you ate a steak? Like I have to remember the things about my client so that I can coach them on that. It's really embarrassing if you screw it up and they're like, wait, that's not what you told me, right? We've got to be able to keep track of it. So making notes is really helpful. The other thing to think about in terms of client management is they might train with you 2 or 3 days a week, but that's probably not the only exercise they're doing. What are they doing on those other days? Do they need extra programs from you? Do they have other stuff that they like doing? Like, do they like going to a yoga class or a spin class? Like, I want to know what's going on from an energy in, energy out perspective. Not all of the energy out happens in front of me. So I kind of want to have an idea. So if we have a calendar, if we know that you're away this weekend, if we know that your competition is on this date, if we know that, you know what I mean? Like, we want to sort of keep track of that. And that's a big part of then being able to customize the program effectively around the client's life, right? And then again, all of that planning just helps us plant seeds and lead them forward and look for solutions and make sure that we're coaching them up around the things that they need to be focused on. Okay. So again, if you're not an organized person, this will be a task for you. It will be part of your job. You're going to have to figure it out. If you're naturally a color coded sticky tags on the side of the whatever cross-referenced everything, then you're good to go. And you're one of my people. Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break because I need to grab a glass of water. So we will return and bang out the business maintenance section. Okay. So last chunk of the business maintenance. And then I'll share a few things about what you need to know to finish up. Okay. So I think one of the reasons why I talk so much extra on these business pages, because I do, I talk a lot extra and I talk very differently than the stuff that the PTA Global pros are offering. I think for 2 reasons. Number one, in our industry, there's an average across the world of about 150% turnover. So lots of people start working as trainers and then quit. It is a little bit unfairly inflated because sometimes people start in one place, quit that place, and then go somewhere else. So they're still a trainer, but they're just like they got hired and fired at one place, or they got hired and quit at one place, and then they go somewhere else. So it's a little bit unfairly inflated. However, why do you leave a place? Well, maybe because your business isn't working, right? Maybe then you go somewhere else. So one of the reasons why I talk a lot about the business section is because we have an industry where there's a lot of turnover. The second reason why I talk a lot about it is because I think a lot of the turnover is because of misconception, misperception, misunderstanding, right? And I've both experienced this as a trainer and I've experienced it a lot more as a manager. When I interview someone, they're really excited. They check all the boxes for me. I explain to them what the job is, and I explain to them how we do things, and I explain to them how I'm going to help them, and here's what the expectations are, and are you on board? And they're like, yes, I'm really excited. And then anywhere between like 1 and 6 months, they go from being excited and passionate, enthusiastic and engaged and willing to work hard to like miserable and grumpy and hating their lives. And they sort of have like a toxic attitude, and then like shit goes downhill really quickly. Right. So I've seen it a lot. And I also started doing lots of exit interviews when I was a district manager, and I was sort of trying to learn, well, how can we hire better? How can we onboard better? How can we support our trainers better? What do we need to do to keep more people? And what I found out of a lot of exit interviews is maybe we could have done a better job of explaining what the job is and what the expectations are. But having been someone who always explained that, I kind of felt like maybe we were doing an okay job of that. There's always ways to get better, but you know, I kind of had a hunch that we were doing a little bit of that. So then what, like why was there this big, like, I had to make phone calls? That's not why I decided to be a personal trainer. I got a lot of that in exit interviews. Like, I had to talk to people and I had to make phone calls and I had to clean the gym. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a shit ton of money for telling people what to do and helping them get huge and ripped and having them thank me eternally forever. That's what I signed up for. Ha ha ha, right? So I feel a little bit passionate about trying to give you a better heads up about what it is and what it takes. And if you suck at this, you have to get better at it. And if you're good at this, then go leverage that. And like, it is a job, right? We do pay you to do it because it is work. And yes, sometimes having a book full of clients and having hour by hour, day after day is hard, right? Training 12 clients a day is hard, just like having no clients is hard. It is work. So I think I'm a little bit passionate about this section because if you have a better sense of what you're up against, if you have a better sense of your strengths and weaknesses, then maybe you go in a little better prepared. Maybe you go in asking for help around shoring up your weaknesses. Maybe you go in with a plan to leverage your strengths, and then you end up being more successful. Whereas if you don't know, then you're like shocked. Oh my God, this is work. And then you quit, right? So, you know, maybe this is helpful. Maybe it's not. Maybe you know what I'm telling you. Maybe you don't. But I think a little bit of it is like, I think it's too easy to go, ugh, these millennials. That's not really it. It's more like, how do we deal with tough times? How do we build resilience? How do we build grit? How do we deal with stuff that's hard? I kind of think that being an athlete or being someone who works out kind of teaches you some of those lessons, because at first you couldn't bench press the barbell and now you can, and now you can bench press the barbell with an extra 100 pounds on it. So like there's something in fitness that's already show up, do the work, you'll get better, right? So then I think that's kind of why it blows my mind that what it takes to build a personal training business is the same thing it takes to reach a personal training goal. So not understanding that those two have a lot in common is a little bit crazy to me. You're literally doing it in your own workouts. You have to apply the same methods and self-reflection and grit and resilience to your job, right? So I think maybe by understanding some of those things, we're better prepared. I know that a workout's going to be tough, and I prepare by getting a good night's sleep, taking pre-workout, warming up properly, finding a workout buddy that pumps me up, playing a really good song, right? Why would I not do those exact same things when it comes to building my dream job, my dream business, my dream career? It is work. It is hard. It is worth it, right? So as we head into this last section here, we're sort of like putting a cap on all of it. And I'm revealing some of the things that maybe you don't realize are part of the job. And if we know them ahead of time, then maybe we're just a little bit more prepared to do them and therefore get the end result that we want. Okay. So some of the hidden tasks when it comes to being a personal trainer. You're managing multiple people. Like, let's say you want to train 30 sessions a week. No client ever in the history of ever trains 30 sessions in a week. So it's entirely impossible to have only one client. And so as soon as you have more than one client, you are now managing multiple people that have different schedules, different personalities, different likes, different needs, different wants, right? And so if we're not organized, then the fact that we are managing multiple people's humanness can be challenging. So if we do a better job of managing all of that humanness, like when they buy sessions, we book them out right away. If someone's like, hey, I need to move a session, we move it, we don't delete it. If they are tired, we're going to try to get them to come in anyways. We're going to show them a win. Like, you were tired, but you did it anyways. And now how do you feel? You're right. I feel better. Like, you know, if we do those things, then our schedule works better. We get paid better. We have a more dependable business, and that's important, right? So you can't be a doormat as a trainer. Oh, you don't want to come in today? Okay, that's okay. Right? So managing sessions, managing your schedule, being organized is important. And in bigger gyms, there are more than just you looking at your schedule. So let's say I have a team of 15 trainers. I'm looking at 15 people's calendar. So example, somebody walks into the gym today, they take a tour, they really like the gym, they want to sign up, they need some help. We talk to them about the fact that we have personal trainers that are able to help them. And they're like, you know what, that's a great idea. I'd love to work with a trainer. I'm going to need to come to the gym after work. So like, 5:30, 6 o'clock sessions would be perfect. Great. I am invested in helping this person. I've gotten to know them. I want to give them a great experience joining our gym. So I'm going to go ahead and pull open that calendar right away. And I'm going to find and book their trainer and those 6 p.m. sessions like before they leave the gym. I'm not calling them, texting them, emailing, chasing them down, trying to get them to come in. I want them to know the next time they're coming in before they leave. So I open up my calendar and I am looking at 15 people's schedule, and I'm trying to place this client with a new trainer. So I'll tell you from my experience, there's trainers that are really good at managing their schedule, and there's trainers that are a complete and horribly disorganized mess. I am not going to take a risk with this brand new member and this brand new client. I am not going to take a risk of saying to them, listen, I'm really excited to get you set up with Dustin. He's got Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 o'clock available. Let me put you in his schedule, not right away. I am not going to take the risk of giving Dustin that client if Dustin's schedule is notoriously wrong or disorganized or inaccurate, right? Because then Dustin looks at his schedule and he's like, what? But I already have someone at 6 o'clock on Tuesdays. I can't train this new person. I'm going to call them and be like, yo, I already have a client. I'm going to put you at 7. That's not a good impression for this client, right? So as a fitness manager, as a gym that operates as a team, you're not the only one filling your schedule. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to give you appointments, clients, leads. And if your schedule sucks and is disorganized, people will not trust you and they won't book your slots. They won't give you people, right? So you can tell I have a little bit of emotional baggage around this one because I've been burned a bunch of times trying to help someone fill their schedule. And then I get reports later that they're like calling clients and canceling on them, calling clients and moving them, or just flat out not showing up. So you have to manage your schedule. And if you're efficient and you're structured, it doesn't actually take that much time. And if you start messing around and you let clients cancel and you're like, yeah, I can move you. Like if you don't set boundaries, then that administrative time can just be like a complete time and soul stealer. So you got to have a little bit of firmness about that. Also, like, don't go home at the end of the night until your schedule for the rest of that week is crisp and clean and organized and accurate. Like you just have to manage it, right? Okay. Second one, writing programs and recording session execution. You have to write programs ahead of time. Programs have to be part of a plan. Like we don't just service workouts. There's a plan, there's a program in place. It has to progress over time. It has to make sense. We don't do 2 leg days in a row. We don't do 19 push exercises and forget to pull. Like there has to be some thought and planning that goes into place. And we don't do a good job of writing a great program if we show up 15 minutes before the session starts and try to bang it out just right then and there. So you got to do it when they first sign up. You got to do it in advance of a new phase change. You know, like it has to be done ahead of time. And in most personal training jobs, that time is not paid specifically. What happens is you get paid for an hour, but you actually train the person for 50 minutes. So out of every personal training session, you're getting 10 minutes of paid time to deal with the administration involved in managing that client. If you run a full 60-minute session, then you are working with your client through the time you're being paid to do the admin. If you decide to go to the lunchroom, get a snack, talk to some people, check your phone, then you're not getting paid to do the administrative work. So I'll be honest, I have both trained people through 60 minutes and I have also taken some time to eat, check my phone and whatever. That's fine. I want the freedom to be able to do that, but that means I have to do that admin time on my own. If I'm not going to do it in the 10 minutes at the end of every hour and I let those little 10-minute blocks accumulate, well, now I have to give up extra time on my own to make sure that those obligations are still fulfilled. So labor law being what it is, you train for 50 minutes, you're getting paid for 60, you accumulate those little 10-minute blocks of pay, and that helps you manage the admin. If you're someone who just likes to sit down on a Sunday for a couple of hours and write programs for the whole week, that's fine. But technically you're getting paid for it 10 minutes at a time at the end of each client session. Okay. So you are getting paid for it. You just might not be punching in for 4 hours of program writing time on a Sunday, but you are getting paid for it as far as the expectation of the job, okay? That leads me to number 3, which is filling out paperwork to get paid. So different roles will have pay happening in different ways, but if we take a look at the old Steve Nash, you had session pay, you had non-session pay, you had meeting pay, you had commission pay, you had team bonus pay, and you were responsible for recording some of that. And if you didn't record it properly, then the computer doesn't know to pay you, right? So don't do the work and not get paid because you're not fulfilling that last little organizational check mark of like signing a piece of paper and putting it in the binder or however they organize that, right? So when you're getting onboarded, ask questions about how you get paid, how you can verify that you're getting paid properly, and what you should do if what you think you should be getting paid doesn't match what you're actually getting paid. Like ask those questions proactively. Don't wait until after when you're like, shit, my paycheck isn't big enough. What do I do? Because then you have a certain level of emotional intensity, right? Ask ahead of time and stay on top of it and know that you're getting what you're supposed to be getting. You're an adult. It is your responsibility to know that, okay? Same with making sure clients are up to date with renewals and upcoming sessions are paid for in advance. A lot of times that's automated and there's a fair bit of support around it happening. But again, make sure you know how to use that system effectively. And then keeping clients informed of events. I would say things like, hey, on Thanksgiving, the gym only opens at 8, not 6. Or, hey, we're running this really cool challenge where if you bring a friend to work out, you can get ballots to win a trip to Hawaii. Like, you want your client to be the one that wins the trip. You at least want your client to have a shot at winning the trip. So it's kind of like when we talked about leveraging media and advertising. You want to leverage these types of opportunities. It's not technically your job, but it is your job, because if it's not your job, then whose job is it? From my own experience, if you do the work to make sure that your clients have a shot at winning the trips, when they win the trips, sometimes they invite you. It's great. I had a nice weekend in Vegas with one of my clients for that same reason. If I get a free trip to Vegas one time, that's worth 10 years of informing people of contests, challenges, events, and otherwise, in my humble opinion. Okay? Again, it's that memorable experience, right? Confirmation calls, kind of another one in the sense of managing sessions. If somebody gets put into my calendar to come in tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. do an evaluation with me, I will be here. Absolutely. I also want to make sure they're here, because it's really annoying to get up out of bed an hour early, come to the gym and get all excited and ready and prepared. And then 7:02, 7:05, 7:07, no one's here, shit. Right? So confirmation calls are a way of making sure that the people who are supposed to come. So if I get told by the manager that I have a session at 7 a.m. with Dustin, and 7 a.m. is a little bit early for me, but like, okay, I'm excited, but then I don't hear from Dustin. I don't know who Dustin is. I have no idea. I might just hit snooze and stay in bed. Whereas if Dustin calls me the night before, hey, my name's Dustin. I'm super excited to meet with you. I'm going to be at the gym ready and waiting at 7 a.m. Tell me a little bit about what you want out of your session. I'll make sure I'm prepared. Okay, well then before I go to bed, I pack my gym bag and I put it by the front door and I set 3 alarms and I'm like there. Right? So like do yourself a favor and stack the odds in your favor that the appointment's going to be there by making that outreach and by making that personal connection, right? Talk to them on the phone. If you leave a message, send a text, say, hey, I'd love it if you could give me a call back. I really want to learn a little bit about what you want to do tomorrow. Like take that extra little bit of effort. It's so worth it when they actually show up. It's so regrettable if you didn't do it and they don't show up, because then it's on you, right? And the same thing goes with follow-up calls. We talked a little bit about in one of the other sessions where 80% of salespeople quit after 2 points of contact, but 80% of sales are made after 10 points of contact. So if we don't do the follow-ups and we don't work to continue the relationship, then a lot of the time we spend doing 1 and 2 offs with people kind of ends up going to waste. And that's a shame, because by the time they've done 2, it only takes 8 more. We've already learned their name. They already know us. They've already had an experience. We've got something to build on. Okay. So I want to be very clear. You get paid for all of these things, but potentially, based on how you run your schedule, it might not feel that way. So all of the little admin things are designed to be able to fit into these blocks of time. If you're super efficient and you start sessions on time and you finish sessions on time and you bang out these little things that need to get done, like a confirmation call takes 2 minutes, takes me 30 seconds to fill out my paperwork for the day to make sure I get paid. When I sign someone up for training, I spend a little bit of time writing out their program and I'm good for a month. Like, it's entirely possible to be disciplined and organized and work a reasonable number of hours for the amount of pay that I get for being a specialist at the thing that I do. But if you get sloppy and lazy and waste time and you skip things, it will come back to bite you in the ass. Okay? All right. There's some stuff around training difficult clients. So super simple, just from the perspective of the exam. We're in a customer service industry. We're in a first world country. We value freedom of speech, right? So if someone's like, hey, this is a problem, it is our problem. And it's not really ever going to go well if you're like, well, I know I work here, but that's not my job. Go find somebody else to complain to, right? Like, everything about the gym is our job when someone's upset about it. If there's no paper towels, it's our job. If there's a puddle on the floor, it's our job. If someone's curling in the squat rack, hot damn, it's our job, right? So if someone has a complaint, here's how we recommend handling it. Number one, just hear them out. Just let them talk, okay? If I'm mad about something and I want to talk about the fact that I'm mad, and I get interrupted halfway through and told to like, shh, and like, here's what the solution is, it just makes me more mad. So you just got to let them talk. Okay. Second thing, try to put yourself in their shoes, try to understand their frustration. It's usually pretty valid, right? And then acknowledge. So you're like, hey, I hear you. Thank you so much for letting us know. We can't fix something if we don't know it's broken, right? And then just take some kind of action. Sometimes it's like, hey, I know where the paper towel is. I will go and get one right now and refill that. And sometimes it's like, I hear that you have a concern about the billing in relation to your membership. That's not something that I have the ability to solve for you right now, but I'm going to take your name and your concerns directly to my manager and let him know. Would it be all right if he follows up with you once he has a solution? Can I confirm that the phone number on file is the best place to reach you? Thank you so much. We will do our best to respond to this as expediently as possible. Like, sometimes take action is just take responsibility for finding a solution, even if the solution is not yours to deliver. Okay. So this to me is just about being a good teammate. Somebody made a mistake somewhere. I'm going to help make it better, right? You don't have to take it personally. You're not a bad person, but like, we've all got to pull together around making things better. And the bigger the team is, the more important it is that everybody's willing to be a part of the solution instead of, it's not my job, it's your fault, go over there, complain over there. Like, if someone's mad, we need to make them feel better as quickly as possible, not send them on a wild goose chase talking to 6 million people until they find the person that can solve their problem, right? What that leads me to then is there's all of these things that happen with clients, right? There's all these reasons why they're not just like showing up, shutting up, paying their money, working hard and leaving. Like, there's all of these human things that we have to figure out how to navigate. The specifics don't matter, but how we deal with stuff that doesn't quite go as smoothly as we want it to is the thing, right? So when you're dealing with someone where you can't quite like just get in sync and figure it out, there's a couple things that we recommend. We would even call this like conflict management, okay? So if you have a relationship with a client or a member or a team member or a boss or a neighbor or a whatever, step number one, can you be proactive? So especially with clients, if we set expectations up front and both people clearly understand what's going to happen, then if there's some kind of disagreement or conflict later, we can just both go back to say, hey, remember at the beginning, we said this was the way it was going to go, right? So the example that I use in this case is the 24-hour cancellation policy. As a trainer, I am prepared, ready, willing, and able to facilitate your session based on the agreed upon schedule. And if you just, I'm super busy at work, I can't come in today. Like what? I'm not supposed to get paid? I'm here. I'm ready to go. I got everything done that I needed to get done so that I could deliver a session for you. No, part of me holding you accountable is that even though you're busy, you're going to prioritize this, find a way to get here, and we're going to get that workout in. But sometimes stuff comes up. Sometimes people make the choice to not come. If I haven't told you ahead of time that I have a 24-hour cancellation policy, and you're like, hey, Logan, sorry, I can't make it, stuck at work. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. Based on our 24-hour cancellation policy, you're going to get charged for the session. If that's the first time you're hearing about it, you're going to be mad. Whereas if I've clearly established it up front, here's what the text message will sound like. Logan, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My boss today's been totally crazy. I'm not going to be able to make my session. That sucks. I was super looking forward to it. I know I'm going to get charged. I'll see you on Friday. Right? So if we're proactive, that whole thing goes so much better. Sometimes people still miss sessions, but we still want to be recognized for the work that we are doing, including holding that space for them. If someone just bails and doesn't come, it's not like I can magically find somebody else to fill that spot, right? So we got to be proactive, okay? Second thing is scope of practice. So your contract, your services, how you tell someone you will help them should be clearly detailed. So like, what do you do and what do you not do? Example, based on your CPT, we can do very limited things with nutrition unless we have additional certifications or work for a place that provides additional scope of practice. So Fitness World, for example, you get a .fit nutrition coach certification. You are now able to do lots of things in nutrition. That's awesome. If you just run sessions out of your garage, you can basically hand out Canada's Food Guide and coach them on that, right? So we want to be pretty clear about scope of practice. Things that are not our job would be therapy, counseling, couples therapy, financial advice, how to use steroids safely, because that's not even a thing, dealing with mental health issues, eating disorders, et cetera, right? Like there's lots of things that are not our jobs. But what's interesting about working with humans and developing a relationship with them over time is they will probably say lots of things or ask us lots of questions. We just have to be clear about what we have the scope to answer and what we have to say. Wow, it's a great question. I don't know. What are you going to do? Or, hey, I don't really have an answer for that, but maybe I can help you find someone who'd be able to give you some advice, right? The third thing we can do if we're not, yeah, go.
You mentioned the .fit nutrition certification. Is that something that we get through this as well?
.fit is a partner of Fitness World. Mm-hmm. So for those of you taking placement with Fitness World, part of your onboarding will be completing the .fit nutrition certification, which is delivered through an online platform. And then typically the hiring manager, whoever it is that's helping get things up and running, like Jacob is .fit nutrition certified. So I imagine he'd be a pretty great resource in the sense of then implementing the practical component of being a .fit nutrition certified coach. It's one of the benefits of employment in the organization. We talk about it. I'm .fit certified through fitness, like through my affiliation with Fitness World, but we don't offer it ourselves. However, like the guy who was one of the first people involved in Gold's Gym back in the day, who then created NASM, who then created .fit, who now owns PT on the Net and PTA Global, like it's the same guy. So like it's part of the family, so to speak. So you might notice that you get the odd email from PTA on the Net or PTA Global or .fit or whatever. It's because they're all owned by the same super awesome icon of the fitness industry.
Who's that?
Neil Spruce.
Neil Spruce. Nice.
He was a big bodybuilder back in the day and was one of the people who was involved in building Gold's Gym from the ground up. And he's done all kinds of business ventures in the fitness industry. So yeah,
Interesting. I'll look into them. Thank you.
Yep. So you'll get it through Fitness World. It's partnership based. So if you don't work for Fitness World, you would have to pay to go through the .fit certification. It's still available, but you would pay for it versus it being offered to you as part of your employment. There you go. Okay. Third thing we can do is communicate. We have to anyways as trainers, right? Coaching, communicating, training. The thing that we're sort of mentioning is here is like, just check in. How are you enjoying the program? What could I do to be better? What's your favorite thing? What am I doing that you don't like? Like we talked about that in the Kaizen process. Don't underestimate how important feedback is. And I both coach down and coach up. So when I'm working with someone who makes decisions about how I do what I do, I want to coach up. Hey, I'd love to get more information about this. Hey, this is something that I want to bring to your attention. Like we want to communicate in both directions, not just talk to our clients, not talk down, but like talk to them as in they are engaged in our services, but like communicate in all directions, up to your boss, sideways to your peers, down to your clients, right? We want to communicate as much as possible. And then if we do have an issue with anybody, up, sideways, or down, we've got to confront issues directly, okay? So if you suspect that something is becoming an issue, like your client shows up 7 minutes late all the time, you got to address it professionally and respectfully, but be direct and do it immediately. So if I'm like, hey, Yvette, like 2.5 weeks ago, when you were on a Zoom call, there was this moment where you called me by the wrong name. And I was really upset about it. And I've been sitting with it this whole time. And like, I have a really big issue. You're like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, timely is really important when it comes to crucial conversations, right? And my own sort of personal philosophy is that if I am unable or unwilling to communicate about something, then I can't really hold you accountable for your part in my feelings about it. You said something that upset me and I don't say anything, I can't really hold you responsible because you don't know. And then if I'm giving you the cold shoulder for like months, you're like, wow, what's that person's problem? Like it's legitimately innocent on their behalf that they don't know. If you can't address it, then you can't have their help in moving past it, right? So when we're working with people who maybe are older than us, maybe not, maybe they're paying us, they have expectations about how things are going to go, but like they're handcuffing our process. Like if we're going to get anywhere, we got to be able to communicate. Sometimes it's scary and sometimes it's hard. So sometimes you talk to a friend or a boss or a coworker about like, hey, how do you think I should address this? But like, we got to address it. Right. And if we can't, it's really going to handcuff our ability to make anything happen in that relationship. Right. We've all heard that saying, like the elephant in the room. It's really hard to have a meaningful coaching relationship with someone if there's a giant elephant in the room, right? Especially if we want to be authentic coaches and we want to work with people that we care about. We can't have elephants getting in the way. So it's like a life skill, right? Sometimes it takes some time to learn, and we gotta learn some skills to do it, but like take it as an opportunity to get better at something that's really important. Don't let it get in the way of the relationship and the service that you're providing somebody. Because if you can't get rid of the elephant, then they eventually are no longer in the room with you. They don't train with you anymore. So sometimes we have to do hard things for the sake of extending the relationship and finding a way to repair it. Okay. All right. The 10 keys to client retention. I feel like every now and again, these sort of pop up in a multiple choice question, like which of these is not one of the 10 keys of client retention. Okay. So marketing to existing clients, really important. We don't want to just give all the deals away to brand new people. We want to show the clients we have some love as well, right? Consistency and follow through, super important, mostly because that's what it takes to reach a fitness goal. I can't get one really good workout in and become shredded. I have to get a bunch of really good workouts in, right? And the follow through is like, if I say I'm going to do something, I got to do it. So if I say I'm going to coach you on nutrition, I got to do it. If I say I'm going to show you some exercises you can do at home to stretch your back, I got to do it, right? Soliciting feedback. This keeps coming up. We don't know everything. our clients are the expert in themselves. So the more we ask for their feedback, the better we are able to tailor what we're doing to their needs and their wants, right? And one of the things I say to trainers is never forget your why. Like there are days when being a personal trainer is hard, but you're getting into it for a really important reason. You love fitness, you want to help people, you want to change the world, whatever it is, right? So never forget your why, but also never forget your client's why, because it's probably not the same as yours. So if you're like, squats are life, and you just want to like tweak squat technique for like the next 17 years, maybe remember that that's not what they want. That's not why they're there. So your why is really important, but their why has to matter to you too. We have to remember what that is, okay? Number 6, be a life resource, right? I think one of the most rewarding things about being a trainer is the fact that our relationship with our clients extends beyond the hours we train them and outside of the facility. So that's kind of something to look forward to, but like we do it on purpose. And I would even make number 7, number 1, to be honest, have fun. People spend their hard-earned money on showing up to train with you, and it's hard. Working out's hard, but if it's fun, then it's worth it, right? Whereas if it's hard and I hate it, I'm really quickly going to find something else to do in that time instead, like eat chicken wings, right? So if we have fun and connect with our clients, we leverage the relationship, we leverage the rapport, and that really means we're hanging on to people for the long term. What I find is if we do those things better, then things like rewarding, frequency, recency, total monetary value, those are a bonus, but they're not expected. So if we have fun and you're getting results and like I pump you up and I make your whole life feel better, then if in January, when I'm about to level up, I give you 2 sessions for free because you were such an awesome client last year, it's like a bonus. I was going to stay anyways, but wow, thanks. That's super cool, right? I don't think we do retention by just constantly showering gifts on people and giving them deals and bonuses. Like I think we gain retention for things that are way more meaningful than that, right? Number 10, finally at the bottom of the list, deliver results. It's kind of funny that that one's at the bottom, but it's kind of like that's the last thought. They came to you for a reason. Are we delivering on that reason? All right, last slide. So day in the life of a trainer. At bare minimum, plan for your clients the night before. So you got your paperwork organized, you got your programs ready to go, you've got your notes about what you need to talk to them ready the night before. Trainers work when others don't. So sometimes we get to work early, sometimes we leave late. We're there on the weekends, right? What that affords us is a certain amount of flexibility. I get my workout in the middle of the day. Sometimes I take Tuesdays off, right? But we still got to work. It just maybe looks a little different. Be prepared for your client before they arrive, right? Like pen, program, pants, right? Like whatever it is, like be ready to go, not scrambling to get organized through the first couple of minutes of their session. We want to start on time and finish on time. Stay alert, focused on your client. It doesn't mean ignore and exclude everybody else around you, but like just be careful about how much time you spend engaging with other people. It's your client's paid session. They deserve your personalized attention, right? Remember to stay open to prospecting throughout your working time there. When you're there, you're prospecting anyways. People are watching you. So like sort of go to the extra effort of making those connections before and after and between clients. And somewhere in that day, you got to get your workout in, right? I sometimes start off coaching by talking about that. Like you got to get your own personal workout in. If you're trying to help someone live a healthier lifestyle and you can't figure out how to make that happen for yourself, then what leg do you have to stand on in the sense of the recommendations that you're making? So your own personal fitness goal matters. The program you're following matters. If you're learning something new, that matters. If you're revisiting something you've done before, that matters. But like you've got to be working on something in order to sort of feel what having motivation and drive is even like. And that's where I sort of go, you know, I really like working with a trainer sometimes, because if I start going like, oh God, I don't want to write my own program, I'm super busy, I'm having a hard time getting my workout in. Well, then maybe what I need is a trainer. It doesn't matter that I am one. I still need to be working on something. I still need to be achieving something. I still need to be following something. And so I'm a big fan of the idea of like coaches need coaches. Maybe not all the time, because you do know some things and you do have reasons to want to be in the gym yourself, but like it's definitely not a problem or a mark of shame to hire somebody. If anything, use it as an opportunity to learn more and invest in what you do, right? So I'm kind of a fan of do whatever it takes to be on a program and be making progress, even if it means somebody else is responsible for holding you accountable to that. Voila. Okay. Well, that was a lot. Questions, comments, or concerns about today's content or the business section in general?
I have a question.
It was a good schedule. Oh, sorry, Togo.
Oh, no, that's okay. Go ahead, Dusty.
We'll go first and then I'll come back to Dustin. Go ahead, Togo.
Oh, sorry. I have a question regarding, it's not like what we learned today, but when we do have interview with Fitness World, what do they usually do for when they have interview with BCPTI graduate?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. A little bit of the process has kind of been fast tracked because they're pretty familiar with what our program is. So they kind of know what you have done with us in terms of where you're starting from. But also consider the fact that they want to get to know you. It's not just that they're like, you know, are you certified and do you know your stuff? But it's like, what's your ideal schedule? What kind of client do you want to work on? What's your own personal fitness like? What's your life like? You know what I mean? Like it's an opportunity for them to get to know you, and the better they know you, the better they can coach you and place you, right? So there should be some question and answer period where they're asking questions, getting to know you a little bit. Even though we sort of eliminate the need for a practical interview, they may still want to just touch base on things like, you know, can you write a program for 3 days for a client? Okay, I like the look of this program. Can you coach and demo this movement, right? A big part of hiring you in the fitness world structure is also being committed to helping you build your business. So the better I know you and the better I know how you coach, the better I can connect you with people that I think are actually a great fit for you. So it is still beneficial for them to go through a little bit of an interview process, but they are familiar with the level of education that we provide. So I think that takes a little bit off the table. So they're also in the process of kind of revamping some of that stuff. So I'll even be interested to see kind of over the next even month and a half to 2 months. Like I think by the time we hit January, there'll be a sort of updated structure in place, but interview questions, potentially like a client scenario where you write a program. Sometimes they send it to you before you come. Sometimes they give it to you and then ask you to come back, right? Like it depends a little bit. There might be a little bit of time spent on the gym floor. They definitely want to iron things out like schedule and stuff like that. So, I mean, those are kind of the things that I would be prepared with prior to showing up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question.
Thanks.
Dustin.
Oh, I was going to see that. So I have I'm starting another job as a bank teller, and they want me to be a little bit flexible with my schedule. And I was kind of curious, like what schedule worked best for you? Because I was kind of thinking that you were saying like at a minimum you want to make like 3 days a week happen for the client. So I was wondering if like working for myself, like I want to work maybe 15 to 20 hours a week as a personal trainer. That's how much time I'd like to spend in the gym with them. Like would like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday be like a good schedule, or like what do you do for that types of stuff, or what was your approach?
Yeah, I like, listen, my approach is not necessarily what's going to make sense if you want to be a part-time trainer. I would like show up when the gym opened. I would leave when the gym closed. I was not getting paid a lot of the time that I was there, but I didn't care because I was building relationships on my own time. And like, I started from 0, 15 times between moving gyms, moving companies, moving cities, moving countries. And that just worked really well for me. I didn't really want to have a part-time job making coffee on the side. I just wanted to go all in until I was busy. So whatever, it works for me. it's not necessarily the best choice for everybody else. But what I would say is, yeah, we do want to be available to at least train people 3 times a week. So between 2 and 3 times is what most people are going to choose. So it doesn't really help to be available Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, as an example. So it could be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It could be Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. It could be Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. It could be Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to do 2 days back to back as long as there's a rest day. Cause I can do like total body, rest day, legs, arms on the back to back day, and that's fine. So yeah, as long as you sort of look at it that way. And then the same thing too is like, if I'm available Tuesday morning, Thursday night, and Saturday at lunchtime, doesn't really help. People typically either work out in the morning or they work out after work. If they work out in the evening, usually they can hit a morning workout. Like if you look at sort of what gym traffic looks like, the same people come in the morning all the time and the same people come at night all the time. So if you want to train somebody, you kind of have to have 2 evening spots open plus a weekend morning or whatever, that kind of thing. And if you want to work 15 to 20 hours a week, here's my question. Do you want to be in the gym 15 to 20 hours a week, or do you want to train 15 to 20 sessions?
Ooh, yeah, I would say, ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, because like budgeting time for myself right now is like the most difficult aspect, because I see personal training as like an avenue to help people with a lot of things. And I want to make the other things happen as well. Like a couple different other things that are going on in my life, like personally. So I'm just trying to like balance it all so that I can give them like a well-rounded approach. But I understand that in order to do that, or perhaps I just need an office space at the gym. I don't know. Maybe I'll try for I might have to rethink like what you said just now, like maybe rethink that maybe I do need to spend more time in the gym planning on like a computer and then more time with the clients, because I guess you can do multiple things with that. But yeah, thank you for your feedback.
So here's what I would say. If you're spending 15 to 20 hours in the gym, you're going to train between 8 and 12 sessions a week. If you want to train 15 to 20 sessions a week, you're going to spend between 30 to 35 hours at the gym.
Oh,
That's
wow.
just the reality of the business. It's
Okay.
not about needing an office and spending a bunch of time planning and this and that, whatever. I can do that anywhere.
Mhm.
It's just, you have to, like, let's say you're like, I want to train 15 clients a week. You have to work pretty hard to get a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 a.m. client Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It takes a long time to get your schedule to that much predictability and control.
Mm.
So like at first it might be like, okay, I have a 5 a.m. client Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I have a 6 a.m. client Monday and Wednesday, and then I have a 7 a.m. nobody at 7 a.m. and then 8 a.m. I have a Wednesday, except when they come on Monday at 7, and then I have 9 a.m. like the works on Monday and Friday, and then Wednesday. You know what I mean? It's a lot of that at first.
Mm. Okay.
And if you have clients back to back to back to back, then that's what you're doing in those hours. When do you meet with your manager? When do you do team meetings? When do you do your .fit stuff? When do you write programs? When do you talk to people on the gym floor? When do you get your own workout in? Like a bank job is like punch in, work for this many hours, take my lunch break, come back, work this many hours, and then I leave. Training just isn't like that. So, you know, I think the most efficient I ever got was like, I had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, ate some food, taught a class at 12, ate some food, went 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I had to do like programs, confirmation calls, administration stuff, and then I like left at like 8, 8:15. And that was like the one day of my 6-day-a-week schedule that was like, and then everything else was like 3 here, a break, 1 there, 3 here. Sometimes I go and take a yoga class over there because I have a 3-hour break. You know what I mean? Like that's just the reality. So if you want to train 15 to 20 sessions, you're going to be in the gym for like a good 15 to 25% more time.
Okay, cool. That makes me think that probably closer to like 6 to 8 clients, I guess, per week would probably be a better. Cool. Thank you. That really helps me form an expectation.
And the other thing that I would say, and this is just like unsolicited advice, and you may not ever end up agreeing with me, but the other thing that I would say is I'm actually going to steal a quote from Clifton Harsky, who's the director of education for PPSC, and he's a super rad dude. And like he and I are both directors of education, but I've learned from him in certain things, and I do things differently than he does in other areas. But I really like this quote from Mr. Clifton Harsky. Everybody is a special snowflake, but you're all snowflakes. So what that means is everybody's unique and individual, and you want to meet them where they're at and give them what they need and customize and individualize and like special them up. Okay? But there's still a snowflake. They only fall out of the sky when it's cold. And if you catch one in your hand, it melts, right? So like human beings need to squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, carry. They need to manage energy in, energy out. They need a certain amount of sleep and stress management in order to achieve body recomposition, right? So like they're special, but they're still a snowflake. So part of what you want to do over time as a personal trainer is treat them as an individual, but like you just want to like, hey, this is the way I do things, snowflake, right? So how you work with your snowflakes over time might change, but at any one given period of time, you're probably going to do a lot of the same things for each of the people you work with. And while you want them all to feel special and individual, you save yourself a lot of time, energy, and effort by being like, yo, I'm the expert. Trust me, we're going to do this, this, and this, and it's totally going to work out. Right? So I'll give you a more specific example. I had somebody who was like really certain that what they wanted to do was stretch sessions with me because they had a lot of pain and a lot of stiffness and they worked a ton and they'd worked with trainers before that just made them do like a bunch of burpees. And all they really did was got like tired and stressed out and sore and injured. And then they like couldn't work out. So then they gained weight. So like they just wanted to do stretch sessions and they were going to take care of the weight loss thing on their own with nutrition and this and holistic that and taking vitamin B enemas and whatever, right? They're like, I'm going to hire you for stretch sessions and you're going to help me lose weight. So in my head, I was like, you want me to help you lose weight, but you're only going to come and do stretch sessions with me. That just doesn't compute. No. So like I for sure did it at certain points in my career where I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'll give you stretch sessions. I say yes to everybody. That's fine. And then I just got so frustrated because I was being asked to accomplish something in a way that was completely asinine and unrealistic. And I knew better. So then it was my fault because I took their money and I said yes. And I said, we'll make it happen. And it was like saying, you want to walk on the moon? That's fine. You don't need to breathe oxygen. Right? So I feel like that's a little bit of an esoteric example. But what I am sort of trying to say is like, work on your process, work on what makes you, you, be evidence-based, be research-oriented, find a way to be efficient and effective, and then like stand your ground. So this idea of like this thing and that thing and individual and you can do it differently and we'll do it this way for you and this person wants this thing and like this whole chameleon thing, maybe like you can have lots of interests and you can do lots of things in your life, but maybe as a trainer, hey, snowflake, step 1, step 2, step 3, or we don't work together, but in a really nice way. Like you're a really great person, but like, this is how I do my job. And I think that might help.
I thank you. Yeah, I think like what as you're speaking, like what you're making me realize is that like I don't want to, I can't take on everyone, like because like my approach to life is different than yours, where it's like you want to spend every minute of the hour in the gym, and I see that like we can spend every minute of the hour in the gym, but I see impact, I guess, elsewhere that has to be made, like in the kitchen, for example. So I want to make like meal plans and help people execute the meal plans. And then you're really going to like this idea. I'm actually going to introduce the fitness world, like the concept of it, but the habit boards where you actually like send them home with a physical product to have at their house. And then they can actually use it to track like their habits over time. But I don't know how it's all like going to tie together necessarily with fitness world, but like personally, that would be like, I guess the pursuit of mine. So that's like a little bit about me, but I do appreciate your input, Logan. So
I'm going to solve it for you.
Okay.
It's one of the tabs on Trainerize.
Mhm.
And Fitness World will be implementing Trainerize. We're in the process of just getting the app rebranded. So every trainer will have it to work with their clients. So one of the tabs on Trainerize is the habit tab. And so every time I open the app, it tells me whatever my habit is, get 8 hours of sleep or eat 100 grams of protein or whatever. And it shows up every day. And just like checking off my reps and sets and whatever, I check off my habit and I get notes on compliance and I get little high fives for compliance awards and blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah.
I can't believe there's so much overlap there because I believe in the apps too, but I also have used the apps. And the reason I like the physical board is because it's physical, it's reality. It's like your workout, it's like pushing. Whereas when you tap a screen, like it's not there. So I definitely see some overlap, but that's really cool to hear actually with Trainerize. I see there being some integrations, let's call it. That's really cool. Wow, thank you for that information.
You'll find ways as a coach to bring your process to life for sure. You'll find ways as a coach to do that. And again, that's your individual thing. And that's where you're like, hey, client, trust me, stick this on your fridge, right? That's your thing. But like, I think what we say a lot of times to really enthusiastic people is like, yo, don't reinvent the wheel. It's round and it rolls and it works really well, right? So like, you can like put stickers on your wheel. You can paint it pink if you want to, but like, get on it and roll. Like that'll be a little bit of you finding how to not spend 6,000 hours of creative time on like one person, right? Because you,
yeah, you want like a structure that you can give to them. And that's what I want is like a very basic idea for me. That's just a simple giving to someone else that allows them to actually govern themselves, because ultimately that's what the personal trainer should want to do, is have the person graduate from training with them to say that I really appreciate everything you've given me. Now I want to move on. Or like maybe they want to get like a session per month now, or a session like start to, I guess, I don't know, have less sessions per week and then just have more checkups to continue the relationship over time. I feel like that would be a interesting way to train more clients, less check-ins.
Sure. I mean, and you'll figure that out, right? You'll figure out whether you want to train less clients more often and have really meaningful relationships, or whether you want to sort of find ways to leverage groups and challenges and whatever to work with more people over time, right? Like you'll figure that out. When it comes to your creativity and your passion, whatever, that's awesome. We always want that. Just do it by asking a lot of questions, right? Because that's the special part of the special snowflake thing. But I mean, like everything you're talking about, like sounds really great. Just find a way to make what you're getting paid worth the amount of time, energy, and effort that you're investing, right? So we don't go too far on the emotional artsy side of things. And then we're like, shit, I'm eating ramen noodles and giving thousands of hours of effort to my clients for minimal commitment back, right? At the end of the day, they have to do the work.
Oh, yes.
So if I'm the one doing all the work, they're ultimately not reaching their goal. We kind of have to find where that lands, right?
Totally. Thank
you. Okay. Awesome. Great job.